y'all. Hey. Let me see. Hey y'all. Give me a moment while I go live on all these platforms. Why is this one not working? Okay. Cool. Y'all see I got some props and everything for y'all for the pound cake hotline today. I'm so excited. I've been working on this for a while. Okay, see why it won't go live over here. Give me a few moments to get started. I'm early anyway. We're supposed to start at 7, but I wanted to get in early just in case we had some technical difficulties. Facebook group doesn't want to go live. All right, let's see what's going on. So we can get into this discussion. How y'all doing tonight? Where y'all from? Let's get back out. I don't even want to let me get back out. I might have, y'all hold tight if you're in my group. I might have to go live from my phone. I was trying to avoid that, but that might just be what we have to do today. We hoping. I should have got my brought my tripod in here. I might have to grab it real quick. Are we cool? Come on, Facebook. Work out for me. I don't know why it's not working over here. While I'm working this out, let me know where you're from and drop your favorite pound cake in the comments. Okay. I'm gonna try one more time. It looks like I'm probably gonna have to get my tripod. We got TikTok in the building this time. I usually don't go live on TikTok, but I want to try something different and add my TikTok family to the in the mix. If y'all don't know me, I'm Ashley. I also go by Whip It Like Butter. I bake a lot of different type of pound cakes and share my recipes on the internet to keep it nice and short. All right, let me grab my tripod because it's not working. All right, I'm back. I'm sure this is gonna work on my phone because I don't want to go live on my phone. So I'm sure that's exactly why it's gonna work. So I made a post today and I got a lot of, so what I was gonna do, I had a topic to talk about today. But I made a post today in my Facebook group about People's Pound Cakes and I'll drop the link to where you can find me in the comments in just a moment. And a lot of people had questions and I tried to answer as many questions as I could, but I couldn't answer all of them. So I'm gonna answer as many as I can tonight. And then I'm also going to answer a few of the questions that you all left me under the post. It's telling me I can't go live on my phone either. There must be something wrong in the group. Yeah, it must be something wrong with groups. I'm gonna start off by answering the questions that you all left me, and then we'll go on to some of the questions that I saw today. Yeah, something's wrong with the group situation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to share the live to the group, and I apologize to the group for that. I'll share the live to the group, and then hopefully it'll work next time. I have no idea what's going on with Facebook in the group situation. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. That's why I hopped on earlier. It's officially 7:02, so we're not too late. So I want to start the pound cake hotline because people have questions all the time about pound cakes. I do a live once a month. Been behind this year. I moved, so I do lives once a month, and usually I bake. But people have questions and they want to dialogue and stuff like that. And I was like, well, maybe it'll be nice if we just have a time that we just sit and chat and I answer questions. So this is what we're doing here. I do want this to evolve. So I've talked about having times where we bake together and that we actually can see each other. So I'm gonna tell y'all where I'm trying to go eventually. We're not there yet. I'm gonna tell y'all where we're trying to go. Hey, I'm glad you caught me tonight. Hey y'all. All right, so I would like for us to do a bake together. I've been entertaining the thought of doing that on like Zoom or something like that. But we also have TikTok. So things go out, and a lot of my people are not on TikTok, but it's a great platform for us as creators to get on and have a chat. And it's also a great platform for us to get on and bake together. So y'all keep that in mind. I'm not trying to push anyone to get on TikTok, but keep that in the back of your mind so we can see where it goes as far as the pound cake hotline goes. So I'm not an expert in everything, right? And so I don't claim to be. This is an open discussion and dialogue for us to help each other. I'm leading the discussion. What I don't know, I'm gonna look up. I'm not gonna sit up here and try to tell you something and I don't know it. I'm gonna look it up, or somebody may have an answer in the chat and we're gonna have a discussion about it, okay? All right, so I'm gonna drop the link in the chat for everybody so you can know where you can find me when I'm not live. I'm on several different platforms. And see what kind of YouTube people. Y'all coming from Florida. You like 7-Up pound cake. Okay. 7-Up is a good one. All right, and do I have my TikTok open? I'm gonna drop the link for you all, but you can also catch it under my profile. But you know what? Catch it under my profile. Because I don't think, let's see if I can add it on here. Oh, I can add it on here. All right, y'all bear with me. I'm learning over here on TikTok. This is my first time, second time going live on TikTok. All right, so we good on all the platforms. What else do I need to tell you all that I missed? And if you have any questions that you didn't get to send to me in email or drop in any of the chats, go ahead. You can also ask as we go along, okay? Or anything that you may think is valuable to discuss tonight. Okay, so let's start with some of the questions that people have. So one question was how long to let a cream cheese pound cake bake on 300 degrees. So if you've been following me for a long time, then you know I believe that time is relative. So I don't bake at 300 degrees. My sweet spot is 325 degrees, but a standard pound cake bakes for about an hour and 15 minutes. So at 300 degrees, maybe it bakes at an hour and 15 minutes. I'm not gonna say exactly an hour and 15 minutes because I haven't baked at 300 degrees, maybe once. And cream cheese pound cakes tend to take a little bit longer. Sometimes they may take like an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 25 minutes. What I like to do is when it gets maybe like we're to the 15-minute mark, so we're at the hour mark, I'm really paying attention to my pound cake at that point. I'm seeing if it's pulling away from the sides of the pan. I'm seeing if it looks moist on top. All those types of things. Maybe about an hour and 10. If I feel like we're at a good point, I take it out of the oven, I do the toothpick test. If it's not done with the toothpick test, like I don't have moist crumbs or it comes out dry, everybody has the different levels of what they like to do with the toothpick test, then I place it back in the oven. Depending on how wet it may have been, let's say it was wet, I check in at 5-10 minute increments. Maybe 10, so I'm not opening the oven too often and letting the heat out of the oven, okay? So time is relative. Every oven is different, every cake bakes different. Sometimes, like cream cheese notoriously take longer than other pound cakes, right? Pound cakes that have more liquid in them may take longer than other pound cakes. So it's more than just time, it's about sight and test too. Okay, so you can never get a good cake when I use liquids. Is that any liquid? And by the way, milk. I don't recommend milk for a pound cake. Milk does nothing for a pound cake, but buttermilk definitely brings that moisture. How long should you cream your butter and your sugar? I cream my butter and sugar for 5 minutes or until it's nice, light, fluffy, and doesn't have the grit. Some people cream their butter and sugar for 10 minutes on high speed. I don't. I cream mine about a 1 or a 2. What I suggest, because there is a standard, right? Those are maybe the two standards. Until light and fluffy, regardless of time, maybe I said 5 minutes, so 5 to 10 minutes, okay? So what I suggest is that you try both methods and see what works for you. It's just like with spraying your bump pan. I may say use baking spray. It works perfectly. Baking spray works perfect for me every time. But some people, it doesn't work for them. Some people, cake goop works better for them. So I think it's a matter of trial and error to figure out what works best for you. Any liquid? Okay. Maybe you're using too much liquid. So for a standard pound cake, no more than about a cup of liquid. You can get away with maybe 1 1/4, 1 1/2, maybe. It just depends on the balance of your other ingredients. I usually don't use that much. I don't usually use 1 1/2 unless I'm making a mile high pound cake. But I stick to maybe 1 cup. If you're making it with 1 cup and that seems to be too liquidy, then drop it down to 3/4 cup and try that. But and then you can start with like a standard. So your standard may be 3 cups of flour, 3 cups of sugar, 3 sticks of butter, 2 teaspoons of flavoring, and your liquid. That's a good balance. That's the thing too with pound cakes. It has to have a balance of ingredients for it to work out. So I hope that helps. If you have more questions, just let me know. Okay, so someone asked, I baked my cake for an hour and a half. Why is it still not done in the center? Well, that depends on a lot of factors. So I baked a mile high pound cake for an hour and a half and it seemed like it was still wet. That's happened with my cream cheese pound cakes. Sometimes I baked it for an hour and 45 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, no more than 2 hours. If I feel like it's getting too brown on top, you can just tint it with foil and continue to bake it. But I would need to know a little bit more about the recipe. It could be the recipe. It could be that the cake needs to bake a little bit longer. Again, with time, just because it said that you need to bake your cake for an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half doesn't mean that the cake's gonna be done at that time. Okay, so somebody asked, they said, I have trouble using the right size pan or conversion to a different pan. So for standard pound cakes, you need, and I didn't pull that pan out, but it's okay. For standard pound cakes, you need a 12 cup pan. I would say that. 12 cup pan gives you a little wiggle room. So if generally pound cake recipes are 10 cups of batter. I don't want to get too technical with this. But if you use a 12 cup pan, it gives you plenty of wiggle room. A lot of people want to use pretty pans like this. I love this pan, it's beautiful, but it's a 10 cup pan. So that means it holds maybe 8 cup capacity because you can't fill it up higher than maybe here. Let me kind of, then here. Because if you do, it's going to rise too high. And then once you flip it out of the pan, it's going to have that little crack area because it was rising too high out of the pan. So that's something that you have to think about when you're choosing your pan. These pans are beautiful and I love to bake in them, but for a standard pound cake, I can't fit all my batter into them because they're too small for it. So that's something to consider. You know what I mean? Sometimes you may have to use a Buntini pan for your overflow or something like that. Or like I said too, just pick a larger pan. So that's really respect the person, right? So sometimes I do want to use the cute little pan, and so I will. But I also consider the fact that all my batter is not going to fit into the pan. Okay, so the question is, how long do you leave your eggs and butter out to reach room temperature? So in my house, that takes maybe 2 hours. It really depends on how hot it is. So if my butter is frozen, my butter takes 4 hours to thaw if it's from frozen. But generally, about 2 hours. But depending on, I keep my home on in the summertime. I keep it a little warm. I'm cold natured. So, and in the wintertime, I keep it pretty warm. So you have to consider that too. But I always take my ingredients out pretty early so I have plenty of time so I'm not rushing. Because you don't want to do things like, let's say you're using buttermilk and it's not to room temperature, you don't want to put it in the microwave. I know people, suggest stuff like that. Just heat it up a little bit. It's something about when you heat up buttermilk, for example, your cake doesn't come out right. So give yourself enough time. Don't rush it. There's some tricks you can do for butter, like if it's not at room temperature when you're getting ready to bake. But I don't like them. I like maybe put it closer to the oven if the oven's already on or something like that. But it tends to melt like on the outside of the butter instead of all the butter softening. So I don't prefer to rush it. You used a pan to make my cream cheese pound cake and it was too large. You don't want your pan to be too large either because it's going to change the shape. It doesn't mean it's going to be anything wrong with the cake, but some people are unfamiliar, so like when they do use something different, it shocks them, you know what I mean? So, especially when you're first starting out, kind of keep a kind of have a system and then build off that system. Like I'm going to master cream cheese pound cakes. And then after that, I'm going to go on to sour cream pound cakes. And I'm going to make them relatively the same way each time, which sometimes it may take time to get there because people like to try different people's recipes sometimes. And sometimes people make recipes different ways every time. So, but I would say just start with a standard like we were talking before. 3 cups of flour, 3 cups of sugar, 3 sticks of butter. If you're using cream cheese, it's 8 ounces. If you're using sour cream, it's a cup. If you're using buttermilk, it's a cup. If you're using heavy whipping cream, it's a cup. If you want to make it lemon, use lemon extract. If you want to make it vanilla flavor, use vanilla extract. If you want to make it blueberry, use blueberry extract. But keep the base the same. Switch out the liquid, switch out the extracts, and kind of build up from there is what I would suggest. Thank you, Jane. I appreciate you. I'm trying to make sure I keep up with the comments. All right, so we had a whole lot of questions in the group. So I'm gonna go over to the group. And we're gonna go through those. I don't know why the live would not just show up in the group tonight. That is so crazy. I'm gonna share it in the group again, so just in case people miss. Hold on, let me drop a note for it. Okay. One day I'm gonna have moderators, y'all, and I'm not gonna have to worry about that. Trying to multitask, but appreciate y'all bearing with me. All right. From there, we're gonna start from the top. Okay, somebody's asking about, they're asking about a specific brand, but I'm gonna answer the question generally because it's a brand of flour, because it's a general question. So, what platform is that? Okay, that's YouTube. So, cake flour versus all-purpose flour, which one should you use? I like the best of both worlds. I did an experiment last year where we tried a sour cream pound cake so many different ways, and I prefer all-purpose flour versus cake flour because I prefer a denser pound cake. But it was nice having the balance of both. If you do not prefer a dense pound cake, which a lot of people don't, they use cake flour. If you prefer a pound cake that's kind of on the more traditional side, that's more dense, then I would suggest all-purpose flour. I like also too how all-purpose flour gives you that nice clean cut, but cake flour gets you like, you can get a decent cut, but it's a little crumbly cut, and you see all the moisture infused into that pound cake. I would try both to see which one that you like, and if you trying to figure out what kind of flour that you like, I suggest using a couple of different flours. Use a decent flour and see which one that you like the best. But I also think it's important. I feel like this. You know, nothing but cakes, places like that are very popular these days, and that's awesome, right? But I think that it kind of skews a person's view of what a pound cake is supposed to taste like, because their pound cakes are oil based, they're not butter based. And a lot of pound cakes you may get from the store, they're oil based, they're not butter based, which really makes them a bundt cake. Okay, so yeah, they're nice and soft and all that type of stuff because they're oil based and they're machine made, right? So it's different from a tried and true pound cake. So I suggest you try a tried and true pound cake first if you haven't. But some people just prefer a less dense pound cake, and you can achieve that with cake flour. You have a recipe that calls for powdered sugar rather than why I guess granulated sugar. Which do I prefer? I haven't tried making a pound cake with the powdered sugar. I hear it's great. I probably don't think I would like it because I made a pound cake with Domino fine sugar, and I didn't like how fine it was. It seemed like it didn't have that umph I was looking for with a pound cake. But I would be willing to try it. Use a pan. Always made my cream cheese pound cake. And okay, I saw that comment. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's go to the questions. Yeah, the cracks are part of pound cake character. It is okay for a pound cake to have a crack. Now, if it's like crumbling or it's separating or something like that, that is totally different. But as far as it just cracking, that's what pound cakes do because of how the pan is shaped and how the heat is distributed. It has a crack. Now, sometimes they don't always have such a defined crack, but it's part of the character. My grandmother swore about Domino sugar too, but I don't know. Maybe because I'm used to the granulated sugar. I don't know. I used it for a while until I was done with it, and I was like, I just gotta go back to my other sugar. And I love her pound cakes with it. So I don't know. Grandmothers always do something special with their pound cakes, but me and Domino, we had to part. Okay, so somebody asked this morning how long to mix after adding the last batch of flour. I say after you cream your butter and your sugar, mix each ingredient you add only until combined. So when you add your vanilla or your whatever extract you're using, you can actually also add it in there with your eggs. I don't, but you can. Only mix it until combined. So you add your vanilla, you know it's brown. Once you see it incorporated into the batter, stop. If you're using a stand mixer, especially if you're used to using a hand mixer, it can be an adjustment. Thank you for the stars. Um, you have to get used to the speed, okay? That's why I only mix at a one or a two. So I'm not in a hurry and I can really control what I'm doing. But when you add your egg, only mix until it's combined, until you see that yolk disappearing, until you see the ooey gooiness, what I call it, the egg white disappearing. Stop. Add your liquid. Mix until it's incorporated. You don't have to mix and mix and mix. Like, oh, I think it needs an extra mix. It don't need an extra mix. Only until combined. And you alternate your wet and your dry ingredient, right? You always start with your dry and you end with your dry. So add your flour, mix, stop, liquid, mix, stop. And your last mix after you add your flour, you can mix that by hand, especially if you think that you're gonna overmix. And it's not a bad idea because unless you're using an edge scraper, right? Let's say you're using a hand mixer, and unless you're using that, or especially if you're using a hand mixer, you have some, cake on the side of the bowl, right? That you have to incorporate into your batter. So you can just go ahead and give that a mix by hand. Just make sure that you get in the bottom of the bowl and stuff like that, and give it a good mix before you pour it into the pan, and you should be good. But the biggest thing is to really be careful not to overmix. All right. So the gluten streak, child, it happens to the best of us. But a big part of that can be overmixing and too much liquid. Or one thing that people don't think about a lot is your ingredients are too warm. That can happen too. Your butter, your whatever your liquid is, your eggs should be at room temperature. They shouldn't be hot. If I see some people and they put in their butter, I see a little liquid. Or I can really squeeze. Even if my butter gets a little bit too warm, I may put it back in the refrigerator for about 10 minutes, um, and let it come back to solidify a little bit, so I can only put an indent in it before I mix it with my sugar. I don't even like how my butter and my sugar combine when it's too hot. It's gonna combine differently. And I use a paddle attachment, but that's another topic for another day. But if you don't have a stand mixer, don't go buy one until you're ready to buy one or you want to buy one. You don't need one for a pound cake. A hand mixer works just fine. And I would buy one when I'm ready to start adjusting to the difference of speed. Okay, so kind of piggybacking off of what we talked about with the nice soft crumb. Um, Sometimes trying cake flour, but also buttermilk. Buttermilk is really key to a tender pound cake. It's not gonna taste sour. I thought about it. I was like, oh, that's the nasty buttermilk and cornbread. The older people used to eat growing up that was sour. Mm-mm. You wanted me to repeat that? So about having moist tender crumbs, that part of trying cake flour and buttermilk. Is that part you the part you were talking about? Okay. So you have 6 rows for racking your oven. Where do I recommend you putting your cake to keep it from overcooking? And that's funny because I just sent out an article about that this past weekend. So whatever I would put your cake as center in the oven as possible. So if that's 3 notches from the bottom, then it's 3 notches. I have, let me see, I have 2 racks in here, but about midpoint is the second notch. Because by the time I put my cake on the pan, my cake on the pan, my pan on the rack, the way it's positioned is center of the oven. And then, actually, I'm gonna drop that article in the comments because there's a photo included too to give you a visual. So, however, center of the oven is. And in the article, it includes some information about if you're baking multiple cakes at one time, because some people do, right? And it gives you some tips on that. But as center as possible. Somebody asked too about the heat source being in the back of the oven. If thank you. If your heat source is in the back of the oven, then still like pull your cake a little bit closer to the door, right? So it's not so close to the heat source. Oh no, of course you don't have to use buttermilk. But if you're having an issue with moisture, I would urge that you try it. Second to that, it just depends on what your preference is. Um, I really like sour cream. I really like sour cream over cream cheese. Cream cheese is a little heavier, so it depends on what you're in the mood for. And heavy whipping cream. Heavy whipping cream is really good. So I dropped that article in the comments for y'all. Oh, somebody asked about, and this is something I struggle with too. You're welcome. Um, is lemon juice, bacon with lemon juice. So because of the acidity level of lemon juice, um, it can be helpful if you use baking powder. Sometimes a combination of baking powder and baking soda, maybe half a teaspoon of each, you can find your sweet spot. I didn't find my sweet spot, and y'all, I work and do this on the side, and I also believe in being practical recipes, things that work for people that they don't have to be frustrated with the possibility of failure. So, and I like easy. So what I decided to do is to use lemon emulsion. I really like lemon emulsion. I think it really infuses the cake with batter, and then you don't have to worry about the problematic issues that you can have with lemon juice. Okay, or you can use lemon extract too. I just like lemon emulsion. Um, so if you really, because some people who use lemon juice, they really like lemon flavor. So what you can do is let me bring this closer. All right. So what you can do is you can make like a lemon butter sauce. So you can make you can heat some butter and add some sugar to it, and then add some lemon juice to it, and make your lemon butter sauce. Or you could probably just do the butter and the lemon. The sugar breaks up the tartness a little bit. So if you're like a real lemon person, you may not want to break up that tartness. But that's something that you can do. You can add some lemon zest. So it depends on how limiting you want it. Oh yes, there is a difference between emulsions and extracts, and I actually have an article on that too. So I'm gonna drop it in the chat, but I'm also gonna talk about it. So um, emulsions and extracts, to put it in short, how it differs. I feel like I was saying before, I feel like the emulsion infuses the cake with batter. I think like you can really taste the flavor throughout the cake when you use them. And I'm not saying you can't with um, extracts, but um, I feel like the emulsion is more of an everlasting flavor. It kind of sticks on your palate even when you're done. Okay, drop this in the comments. After you have the bite, it's like a nice after bite, if that makes sense. But it's one of those things that you really have to try. I'm not, not trying to sell it to you like that, but it's true. For you to really understand what I'm talking about and the difference in them, you really have to just try it for yourself. They can be on the pricier side. Worth it though. Worth it. I promise you, it's worth it. Okay, let me go. Let's see this Facebook. I can't see the full question. Okay, so your issue is over mixing. You know you stop after adding the flour disappears. Somehow you're still over mixing. How long should I mix after adding the flour, each flour addition? Just until combined. So if you feel like you're over mixing, mix it until you still have like a little flour residual left before you add the next bit of flour. I would say that. But make sure you're only mixing until combined with each ingredient. And we're having a chat today, but I do go live every month and give demos. You can find my past demos. You can also see my YouTube channel. Um, but you want to look at my butter vanilla pound cake recipe. A lot of my videos are sped up, but my butter vanilla pound cake recipe is in real time, so you can actually see how it looks when I'm mixing. Okay, and the speed of mixing, how the batter changes, all that type of stuff. And if you're using a mixer, you may be going through an adjustment period. Um, because the speed, the power is different with a stand mixer than a hand mixer. So keep that in mind. So I dropped the link to my beacons. That just takes you to all my links so you can find my YouTube channel there. Okay. Let's see what the next question is. So some of the comments too were just about, wanting to bake a pound cake but haven't before. Y'all, baking is like a sport. It's like anything. You just gonna have to get in there and do it. You're gonna waste ingredients. You're gonna I wouldn't call it a waste because everything is a lesson learned. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have pound cakes that don't come out right. I still have pound cakes that don't come out right. Sometimes I may have baked a pound cake knowing that I wasn't in the mood for that. Worst time to make a pound cake. Knowing my butter was a little bit warm, but I was in a rush. And it wasn't going to come out the way I thought it would. I was going to have a little gluten streak. Right? The learning period never stops. So I urge you just get in there and do it. You don't have to have a fancy pan. You don't have to have one of these. Go get you a pan. I like a good baker pan. I feel like you're gonna do something, do it right. I'm a fan of Nordic ware. I'm not saying that you can't go get a pan at Walmart and your cake come out the same. But I notoriously use Nordic ware. I don't have a problem with them sticking or anything like that. So I'm gonna recommend what I feel like is quality to you. But just start. If you have, I've used Walmart flour because that's what I could afford at the time. I use Walmart sugar, still do. I get my stuff from Sam's. What's Sam's? Walmart. So, and then go up to premium ingredients. If you prefer to use Land O'Lakes, I like Land O'Lakes butter. But I don't always use Land O'Lakes, but I use Sam's butter. But the point is, just start with what you have. It's, you know, I recommend that you, if you use vanilla, what is that? The imitation vanilla, don't use that. Make sure you use some good vanilla. But the other stuff, you can kind of, get a pass on until you really figure out your flow. Sifting your flour. All right. I don't sift my flour. I do use sifted flour, pre-sifted flour. Even if I did not, I would still not sift my flour. I fluff my flour. Flour is not clumpy and all that type of stuff, so I don't believe it needs all of that. But I also prefer a denser pound cake. If you sift your flour, you will achieve a lighter pound cake. So that's up to you. Some people sift once, some people sift twice. So if you want your pound cake on the lighter side, maybe sifting will be better for you. I never use shortening in flour. Mm-mm. All I use is baking spray. That is all I use. And that's another thing going to practical. I don't have time. I know old school, and that's good. I don't have time to be buttering and flouring and trying to make sure I get all of It's all it's all in the spray, right? It's all in the spray. And so that's what I use. I have used it before, and then I don't like how sometimes it has your cake come out a little ashy. All right. So another question was about which brand of what love? I like the USA pan. I use that one too. A lot of people say it sticks with them, but I've never had a problem with it sticking. Actually, about to drop a recipe Saturday that I baked in that pan because I haven't used it in a while. It bakes up differently than a traditional pan as far as kind of has a more of a, I don't call it a solid rise. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's not as like, it's not the same rise as you get as far as it being real tender, more tender to touch. But I do like it, and I do like the fact that I don't have to spray it. Okay, which brand of baking spray? Baker's Joy. Don't pour your flour, spoon it into your measuring cup. Absolutely. That's the proper way to add your flour to your measuring cup. Spoon it and level it. Don't pack it. Spoon it and level it with a knife. Don't pack it. Um, you're welcome. Okay, we can talk about moisture a little bit more. So I posted an article about this probably yesterday. So there's a couple of different things that you can do for moisture. One of my favorite methods, if you're a shortening person, shortening has a different flavor than butter. Even when you use it with the combination with butter, it just has a different flavor. So you can use that, but you have to determine if that's something that you like. But shortening will give you that crusty top every time. So if I use shortening, what I use is 2 sticks of butter, and then I use the equivalent of a stick of butter for the measurement of my shortening. You have a good night too. Thank you for joining me. But vegetable oil. Vegetable oil is something that I like to use. Sometimes maybe a couple of tablespoons. I won't use any more than a fourth a cup though. There have been people that use almond flour to bake a pound cake, especially people that have dietary sensitivities. I've never used almond flour. I'm a more of a traditional pound cake baker, so I stick with all-purpose or cake flour if I'm going to bake a pound cake. But yes, people have used it, and you can. What else for moisture? Kind of like the other storage. Matter of fact, this is what I store my pound cakes in. This is a cake keeper. Most people have seen them, but just in case you haven't, you don't know about it, here it is. I love it because it's good for transport. You can just carry it and go. When my pound cake is not being served, or as soon as it cools, it's going into my cake keeper. I don't leave it out to air. I'm not saying it's gonna dry out if you leave it out on the counter for 30 minutes. But that's the thing about moisture too. You can't just leave your pound cake out forever and ever like it's a piece of cake from the store that they put all that oil and all those preservatives in, right? And expect that your cake is not gonna dry out. A good cake keeper, so you don't have to wrap it in plastic, you don't have to wrap it in foil, and it ruins like whatever icing you have, glaze, your nice little design. You just put it in your cake keeper and cool. If you're putting your cake in the refrigerator, like if it has fruit in it, I put this thing right into the refrigerator too. What platform is that? That's YouTube. Somebody has a question about Baker's Joy. Baker's Joy and that clogging has been a problem. But that's my spring, I'm gonna stick by it. No, but for real, Baker's, I haven't had a problem in maybe like past 6 months to a year, but that's been a notorious problem with Baker's Joy. Now, what I did do is I contacted Baker's Joy because I was having an issue and a lot of people were complaining in my group, and they did send some coupons. But I think it's important to complain because they need to know that consumers are having an issue with their product. Because a lot of people use Baker's Joy. Nobody has time to buy that can that's what $3-4 and it's clogging on them. I've tried wiping it after use, running it under water, sticking something in the. None of that has worked for me. So I did contact them, and since then I haven't had any issues. Well, I should say, as of late, I haven't had any issues with the bottle. I don't use White Lily all-purpose flour. It's actually hard to find here, and I haven't ordered it. But a lot of people like that flour. Don't use the convection setting on my oven. No, but a lot of people have bought ovens that have that setting and are wanting to throw that oven away. So what I recommend, maybe send it back. But if you like the oven you had and you want to go along with it, a lot of people have said if you drop the temperature by 25 degrees, that's helped with their pound cakes. When cooking a regular pound cake, I'm gonna have to go over here so I can see the whole comment. 6 bottles? Oh no, they need to give you some free bottles or something. I'm not trying to whatever with the company, but when so many people are having an issue with the product, something needs to be fixed. Maybe they had a bad batch for a while. Okay, when cooking a regular pound cake, I think this is supposed to a mile high, not a mile high. How do you get the pound cake to rise where it doesn't look small? It's all in your batter, your pan, and your process. So, you have to have enough batter for the pan, right, for it to be of a certain height. So if you're using like 3 cups of flour, 2 cups of sugar, 2 sticks of butter, maybe change it to 3, 3, and 3. All right, so you have more volume. Make sure that you're taking your time with the creaming process with your butter and your sugar, because that aeration is what gives pound cakes that rise too. Maybe try half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of baking powder. You don't need baking powder for a pound cake, but that may help. Making sure you have the right size pan, not overfilling it. Okay, did I hit all 3? Your process, your pan, and your batter. I think I went over that. Okay, I would with those 3 things, and you shouldn't have a problem. Some people use, okay, so if you got two 12 cup pans, but this pan is more narrow over here, you're gonna have a taller pound cake. So if I'm not saying you're doing this, but if you're comparing how your pound cake looks to somebody else's pound cake that's the same pound cake, that may be the difference in their pound cake too. Does the water method take longer to bake? Are you talking about the water bath? I like the water bath if that's what you're talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the thing, it, when I was using that method, because I felt like my cakes were so dry when I lived at this place, and I tried different things like oil and buttermilk and stuff. I'm like, these cakes just taste drier over here. I used the water bath method. I think the cake took about the same time to bake, maybe 5 minutes longer. But what I learned is not to use more than 1 cup of water. Place the cup of water below the cake, but to the side of the cake. If you use me, when I use more than 1 cup of water, my cake stuck to the pan. So I had a moist cake, but my cake stuck to the pan. So I only asked enough water. And oh, again, don't place it directly under the cake. I know a lot of people put things under their cake, which blocks the heat source, and it works for them. It doesn't work for me. I would urge you to try it with the water to the side first. I've tried the cold oven method, but my favorite is the preheat. Okay, go back. You're talking about the water bath method. Okay. I think I answered your question. So you just put it to the side. Have I ever used the cold oven method, or do I always preheat? I tried the cold oven method, and I prefer to preheat. The cold oven method, just that slow rise, is cool, but I felt like with some pound cakes, I didn't get the rise that I wanted. Some people, they bake cold oven every time. That's what my mom says. She says, put the cake in the oven, I turn the oven on. It didn't do what it needed to do for me, so I preheated. I think that's another thing that's preference, but I think it's good for a cake to have a decent amount of heat to rise properly, or to rise the way I like it. Because when I did the cold oven method, I'm not gonna say the cake didn't rise. It rise in the way that I like. Somebody asked about having those little light colored spots over the pound cake. I think that's from baking spray. Um, and even still, like sometimes I like to spread my baking spray out with the pastry brush to make sure I get all into the creases and the crevices. And my baking spray is evenly spread in the pan. But I think that's from the baking spray. Honestly, if anybody else thinks or has a experience with it being something different, let me know. But I think that's what it is. Am I gonna stop using that baking spray? No, I'm not. You paid $9 for Baker's Joy from Nordic Wear. You're saying Nordic Wear's baking spray? They have a baking spray? I don't know. I never paid $9 for baking spray. Maybe three something. What was nice about Kroger, I shop there all the time, so then they start sending me coupons. But I've never paid $9 for baking spray. And I wouldn't, child. That's too much. And some people do like to just butter and flour their pan. Some people like the shortening and flour their pan. You use pan spray. Oh, let's talk too. about leaving your ingredients out overnight. So I know a lot of us grew up doing it. I will say butter and eggs are perishable ingredients. Always follow USDA guidelines. I'm not telling you what to do, but overnight is unnecessary. It's too long. Your ingredients are too warm, which can alter your recipe. If you're a pro that's been working for you, you got it down. I'm not necessarily talking to you. I'm talking to people who are just starting and are having issues with their pound cake and can't figure it out. I've done everything wrong. I'm not over mixing or anything like that. Think about how long your ingredients have been left out. Think about, like, if you're gonna make scrambled eggs, would you leave your eggs out over 8 hours? I know some people work. They want to bake when they come in from working. I just, on my days I'm at home, I may bake so I cannot leave those ingredients out more than 2 or 3 hours. Cause even though you leave buttermilk out too long, it gets too warm. Your pound cake doesn't come together as good as it should be. But it's too long. Your ingredients are too warm. I haven't experienced my Baker's Joy can being half full. I'll probably take it back to the store because that's crazy. That's crazy. Hold on, TikTok. Why are they already trying to end my live? TikTok, they only give you a certain amount of time to go live. Child, I'll restart it. Anyway. Yeah, if that can was half full, I'll take it back to the store. That stuff is too expensive. To y'all can have that. All right, somebody asked about incorporating different flavors into um a pound cake. Oh, you like the tip over about overnight? Thank you so much. I'm glad you all just rolling with that, because I'm not telling anybody what to do. You're gonna do what works for you, but want to give tips for what can help, or what's help, or what I feel like is the correct thing to do. Just like I wouldn't tell you to do what I do, which is I just scoop flour and I level it because I know that's not the right way. That's what I do. It's like when you go to OJT, right? They tell you this is what the handbook say, this is what I do, right? That don't mean that what I do is the right thing to do, or what other people is the right thing to do. That's just what they do, right? If I was preparing my flour, I would spoon it and level it. That's the right thing to do. So that's what I'm trying to go with. So somebody asked about incorporating different flavors. So I made several five flavor pound cakes, and you wouldn't think that 5 flavors would go well together, or they wouldn't be too much flavor. Child, that's a delicious pound cake. Even in my last pound cake, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use 3 teaspoons of flavor and see what how this cake comes out. Baby, it was good. It was good. Probably if I use vanilla bean paste, I wouldn't use 3 because vanilla bean paste gives a good infusion of flavor. But I was using vanilla extract. I think I was using Madagascar vanilla. And I was like, yeah, I think it needs a little extra. And so I did. Some people don't even measure their vanilla. So one of the big things, I'm gonna have to do a tutorial about this. So I'm actually gonna drop a post in the comments. One of the number one things that people ask about, besides some of the there's common pound cake questions, right? But glazes. They just say, my glaze is too thick or it's too thin. So I don't know if I'm gonna do it on my next live. I might bake the cake one day and then the next day we do the glaze, something like that. So I can do a glaze tutorial. It's just a balance between your powdered sugar and your liquid. So the thing about, no matter how much powdered sugar that you use, no matter if you use a cup, no matter if you use 2 cups, or 3 cups of powdered sugar. Hold on. Oh, okay. My bad, y'all. Somebody in my door. I heard it. Okay, so no matter if you're using 1, 2, 3, 4 cups of powdered sugar, you want to slowly add in your wet ingredient. So you can use lemon juice, milk, heavy cream. Traditionally, is milk or heavy cream. You can use milk if you want a thinner glaze. You can use heavy cream if you want a thicker glaze. All right. Add your liquid a little bit at a time, and I mean just a little bit, and mix. It starts clumping up on you. Okay, that's cool. Add a little more. Slowly add a little more. Let it incorporate. Add a little more. I recommend using the hand mixer or the wire whisk attachment if you're using a hand mixer. If you add too much liquid, it happens to the best of us. Add a little bit more powdered sugar. Maybe add a fourth a cup or a half a cup at a time till you get it to the right balance. You truly don't really know till you get it on the cake. But what I do is I pull that mixer attachment up, whether if it's a hand mixer or stand mixer, get a spoon, let it drip, let it pour, and that's how I know it's gonna look when it's coming over my cake. If it's translucent, I know I need to add more powdered sugar. I did not add enough powdered sugar at all if it's translucent. And I'm not being funny because a lot of people had that problem, so I wanted to bring it up. You're not adding enough powdered sugar. And you may be using water, don't use water. Use milk. Um, don't leave your powdered sugar open in the air because I've seen several people with those little balls in their icing is because you left your powdered sugar in the air. You can sip your powdered sugar, but you don't have to if you store it properly. But baby, if it gets any kind of air in the bag or if you have it in the container, you leave your container open too long, it's gonna dry out your powdered sugar and cause those little balls. And even if you mix on high speed, you still gonna have those little balls once you get ready to pour your glaze. But we definitely gonna do a tutorial. Someone told you your pound cake was too dense. Is it good or bad? I think it depends on the person if it's good or bad. If it was a customer, it's not a good situation for that customer, but I think it's finding out like why they thought it was too dense. Maybe they don't like dense pound cakes. Maybe they're not used to a traditional pound cake. I mean, there's several different factors, but it doesn't mean that everybody's not gonna like that pound cake. Maybe that person didn't like that pound cake. So I would I would start there with that. If you use all-purpose flour, maybe try um, cake flour next time. And if you really value that person's opinion, because that may be a special person in your life, right? And maybe somebody who has a lot of experience with pound cakes. Try that. Try something different. Try buttermilk and see if they like that. But if they're good at baking pound cakes, they're really familiar, maybe they can give you some more feedback too. But everything not for everybody. Hey, stranger, I ain't seen you in a long time. No, you didn't miss another contest. We're doing something new. This is the pound cake hotline. But we still have the monthly baking challenge every month. This month is yellow pound cake. But oh man, we haven't done like a live contest in a while. Maybe I pull people over to TikTok. We talked about that in the beginning of the live. We can do something like that since on TikTok you can bring people up and stuff. I'm trying to learn TikTok. This is my first time going live like this. Um, but that would be cool for us to do in the future. It's good to see you. And the good thing about that too is on TikTok they give you the ability to see each other. Okay, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. How long do I wait before I glaze my cakes? I glaze my cakes once my cake is cool. If you don't glaze or wait to glaze your cake, once your cake is cooled, that could be the other problem because then your glaze heats up, it thins, slides off the cake. Especially if it's hot, you definitely don't want to do it hot. Some people want more of a translucent glaze. There are some instances of that, right? I'm not talking about those instances, but wait till it's cool, maybe slightly warm, so it has a little bit of heat to stick to your cake. But when in doubt, you can just wait to glaze it when it's cool. It's fine. I'm trying to think if there's something else I want to say about that as far as glaze. Same thing as frosting. Same thing as icing. Wait till your cake is cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've been good. I hope the same for you. Just busy. You know how it is. Somebody asked the question. I don't think I understand the question. But the question is when I use pound cake pans instead of bump pans, my cake always drops. Maybe they're talking about loaf pans. If anybody thinks they have any idea, you can share. I'm not as familiar with baking with loaf pans. I always use a bump pan, and I don't really bake my pound cakes in alternative pans either. Like I don't bake them on sheet cake pans. Then it's a sheet cake. I don't bake them in cake pans, round cake pans. I only bake in bump pans. Is it better to have moist crumbs or a clean toothpick? That's really up to you. You said it's if it's clean, it's too dry, then it's overbaked for you. And that's kind of like a sweet spot, right? Maybe that's like if you're baking into an hour and 15 minutes and it's clean, maybe back it up to an hour and 10, you know? Oh, this is funny. And you know what? Let's talk about this. I'm excited about this question. Y'all got some more time for me? I know we've been on here for an hour. But let's talk about this. So somebody said that they're trying to get used to people used to buying pound cakes because the community that they're in is used to box cake mixes. Yeah, that's why some people pound cakes look the way they look because they're not pound cakes. They box cake mixes. They is. I'm using King's English. They are made from box cakes. Some people doctor up box cakes now to make pound cakes. Now that is popular in the layered cake community, right? For time efficiency, blah blah blah, different reasons. I don't bake layered cakes to give you the whole rundown, but I've seen it a lot in that community. Again, that it's so nice and moist and all of that because it's not a traditional pound cake. So don't always compare yourself to somebody else, especially if you don't know the recipe. People they do different kind of stuff with their cakes to make them look the way that they do. They are not always a tried and true pound cake, especially if the cake is too perfect. And I'm not saying that people don't make beautiful cakes. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying sometimes if you see that perfection, and that super moisture and all that type of stuff, you don't know what they're doing with the recipe. So don't think something is wrong with your recipe because their cake looks like this when it comes out, but yours doesn't. Especially if you don't know the recipe. That's food for thought. But that's something I was thinking about the other day, because like a lot of times when people drop those recipes, like in my group, and I'm not picking on anybody. People do what they do. If they want to call it a pound cake because they baked it in a bump pan, or they feel like it is, that's their business, right? But it may not be a tried and true from scratch bundt cake, pound cake. It may be a bundt cake. Hey, look, I don't sell pound cakes, and Portia Kimball is a good resource um, for that, for business advice. She's a good resource. You bake your cake at 250 for an hour and a half. Is that the what is the usual time? So what's typical is to bake your pound cake between 300 and 350 for an hour and 15 minutes. I don't bake as low as 300 degrees. I bake at 325, but it's not uncommon for people to bake their pound cakes at 300 degrees, but not 250. I'm not saying that that's wrong or it's not working for you or whatever. But your question was, what's the usual time? That's the usual time and temperature. All right, Lisa. Somebody asked a question. It's a little bit different. I'm gonna address it because it may apply to someone. Someone said they added sugar to their dry ingredients, but they're not sure to continue. Should I cream the butter and sour cream into dry ingredients? So, pound cakes are prepared a certain way for a reason because baking is a science. Butter and sugar should be creamed together. You can cream your cream cheese into your butter and sugar, which I prefer to do if I use cream cheese. Or you can add it towards the end. I think it creams with the batter better, adding it before. Add your extracts, eggs, flour. If you're using liquid, alternate your flour and your liquid, beginning and ending with your flour. Some people have tried the dump method. That's worked for them. That is not typical of pound cake baking. So you can try that if it works for you, if it's less complicated for you, um, that may be better for you. But baking is a science, so I want you to be aware that if you try something different and it doesn't come out right, it may be because of the method. Right, 320. I used to make all my pound cakes at 350. If you see some of my older recipes, they recommend 350 degrees. Nothing wrong with 350 degrees, but when I started baking with my new oven and as I progressed and baking, 325 was better. But there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with 350. Excuse me, y'all. All right. Okay. This asked me to ask somebody to join us. Y'all, look, I'm intrigued. I'm over here learning about TikTok. I'm just gonna have to get on here one day and play around and figure out what I'm supposed to be doing over here and read some books and watch some videos. Okay. All right. I have one more question I want to discuss. If y'all have anything else you want to discuss or ask, just let me know. Oh, I hope you love that cream cheese pound cake. That's a great one to bake for Easter. People like traditional pound cakes, especially for Easter. What about using margarine instead of butter? Margarine does not have the appropriate fat content for pound cakes. Back in the day, or when people couldn't afford butter, they used margarine. Some people still do use margarine in pound cakes. Traditionally, you use butter in pound cakes. I hope that answered your question. Well, what I do, I'd rather use store brand butter than to use margarine. That's my answer. Okay, so somebody asked a question about a pound cake coming out dark. This pan right here is dark. So your pound cake is gonna come out darker when you use a pan like this. You may think, oh, it's gray. It's not that gray. Your pan is gonna come out dark using a pan like this. Darker than it would if you use a lighter pan. You can wrap your pan in foil to try to help offset that. People have dropped baking temperature down. I've tried that. It hasn't made my cake lighter, but covering it with foil has. Now, I got some pans that don't like to be covered with foil, and they want to make the pound cake stick, so we can't do that with them. But that is a method I've used, and the cake does come out lighter. When I use my gold pans, my cake doesn't come out dark. Baby, that thing come out nice and golden brown. But this gray one is pretty, but my cake comes out darker. What is the average time to cool a pound cake prior to removal? It just depends. Y'all can't hear me? I can speak louder. I don't talk that loud, but I can speak louder. It just depends. My pound cakes take maybe an hour and a half to cool. I mean, I just kind of check on them. I make sure I don't leave them out like maybe 2 hours. 2 hours are probably cool enough. But I check on them, my pound cake, and test it out before I put it in my cake keeper. Is what I do. So it just depends on the temperature you're home to. Oh, somebody asked a question that I missed. Will making butter at home help save on grocery bills? I guess it depends on if you like it. I have a recipe for homemade butter if you would like it. I think it's butter that I would put like on my toast or something like that. Would I make a pound cake with it? No, because it doesn't have the appropriate fat content. But I like the butter that I made for toast. But that's it. And I made it with heavy whipping cream. That's it. It makes buttermilk and butter. But if we're talking about for pound cakes, baking is a sport like any other sport. So the investment is worth it. But to say it's not an investment, it is. A lot of people don't realize that when they get ready to start baking. It's just one of those things. You got to spend the money. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money. It depends on how much baking you decide to do. I haven't tried Amish butter in a pound cake, but I have tried it in other recipes. I really didn't like not other recipes, just like cooking dinner and stuff, dinner type meals. I didn't like the twang of it when I used it. And maybe it's something like a flavor I needed to adjust to, but for that price and how I kept feeling when I used it, I didn't keep buying it. I just didn't keep buying it. But some people swear by it. Okay, how long do I let my cake cool in the pan? 10 minutes. Let me tell you about my little journey with that. So when I first started baking, I don't know. I think I heard that you're supposed to let it stay in the pan until it completely cools. My cake still never stuck, but it's too long. It's still hot. The cake continues to bake while it's in the pan when it's under the heat source, so it's too long. Then I went to 20 minutes. Then I was seeing people that said, um, "Oh, I flipped mine at 10 or 15 minutes." Oh, I'm nervous. I'm nervous, but tried it, so I be bigger and I tried it, and 10 minutes has worked for me. 10, no more than 15 minutes, and I'll take that cake out of the pan. Some people say immediately after it comes out of the oven, it's too hot, it's smoking, and with the heat, I don't flip mine that early. The cake is pretty tender. I think it needs to stay in the pan for at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes to bind, so to speak, and then you can gently flip it out of the pan. What else was I gonna say about that? I think that's it. I placed my pan tube on a cooling rack so it's able to get air under the pan. I don't put it directly on the counter or anything too when I'm letting the cake cool when it comes out of the oven. Hey Leonardo, thank you for clearing that up for me. Hey Tiffany. Okay, I'm checking if I have any other questions. Do y'all have any other questions? Do y'all have any other comments? Is it something that you all want to do once a month? Is it something that you all want to do every week? Let me know. It doesn't have to be this long. How long we been on here? Almost an hour and a half. It doesn't have to be this long. We can just come on. I can come on and we can just have like a little pound cake discussion, or we can do something like I do this once a month. Oh, you like my phone? Thank you. I bought this especially for our live. I ordered this. I thought it was too cute. It doesn't operate like a rotary phone, like it doesn't, but it's got the buttons. And it's supposed to actually work. Not just be a prop. I'm not gonna plug it in the wall because I'm not paying for service. I don't have a house phone, but it's supposed to actually work. Thank you. Um, so we can do the live. We can do it like this once a month, and then we can do where we actually bake together once a month. So I'll go live twice a month. Y'all kind of let me know, give me feedback on how you felt about having the chat. I think especially like if it progresses to like what I was telling you about TikTok. Again, not trying to push you all with that, but progresses to where I can invite people up. We actually have a dialogue. It's a different discussion than me just talking to you all reading the comments, right? And for us to get to know each other a little better. Some of y'all really truly support me. Some of y'all, no matter what I post, y'all like it or y'all comment. And I don't miss it. I do just heart them because I get so many comments. I don't have time to respond to people individually, but I see y'all and I appreciate that. So I wouldn't mind, hey, we're on live, y'all come up. We have an actual conversation because we've been rocking with each other for so long. Let's have some virtual face to face. Okay, monthly for an hour. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, 2 live segments. All right, so what I'll do, okay, thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. So what I'll do is, if anybody has any questions, you're watching the replay or whatever later, I'll come back and I'll check on the comments and I'll answer them. I'll look for any more feedback on what you all want to do futuristically for the lives. I hope y'all have a great night. Hey, Renita. Okay, this is on Facebook. Yes. I'm gonna keep this up on my personal page. Um, Facebook only allows lives to be stored for 30 days now, but this live is also on my YouTube channel. And let me just drop the channel in the chat. I've been dropping my beacons so y'all have access to everywhere that I'm at. But let me drop my YouTube information in the chat. As a live will stay there for sure. YouTube, of course, I'm not gonna drop it over there. Y'all know where to get it. And I'll just drop my beacons again. So I'll give it some thought that maybe we can do the second and the fourth week of the month or something like that. Like I said, I'll still come back and check to see what y'all's feedback is, to see what you want. People are busy, you know what I mean? You may not have time all the time. And I'm pretty busy as well, obviously, right? But we make time for what we want to make time for. So if there's an interest, then I'll be here. All right, so drop my link to my YouTube channel so you can go get the replay, catch the replay if you like. I drop my beacons information there. It includes where you can find my email list. I post on my TikTok channel, on my YouTube, on my personal page, on my Black People's Pound Cakes group page about the live. You know how the algorithm is. You may not catch everything. There may be an issue like tonight in the group for whatever. I couldn't go live. I couldn't go live on my tablet and I couldn't go live on my phone. But if you have my links and my information and you know where to find me, then you can just hop on another platform. But my email list, I send all my guides to them first. I send all my new recipes to them first and try to make sure that I keep them in the know about lives and everything else. I've been better about that. It's a lot to keep up with, but I've been better about that. But any updates, I try to make sure that I share my email list. It's free to join if you want to join my email list. I send out an email like once a week, so I don't bombard y'all or anything. Okay, let me catch this question. Have I tried to put my prepared pan in the freezer before filling it? I haven't tried that method, but that method works a lot for people that I've heard. They just spray it or however they prepare it and they place it in the freezer. And once they're done preparing their cake batter, then they pour their batter into the pan. I haven't tried that method. I do. Wanda says she's tried it though, and it works well for you, Wanda. I can say this though, and I've adjusted my recipes for this. So I think that if you're using something like baking spray, that you can have like some settling. Like if you spray your pan, prepare your cake, and then place your batter into your pan. So I think that you should spray your pan or prepare your pan directly before adding your batter into the pan. But if you try the freezer method and that works for you, that's kind of like what we've been talking about during this live. I can give you tips. I can give you a couple of methods that I think that I like or that I am aware of. But a lot of things are trial and error to figure out what works best for you. All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate y'all. You know, y'all gave me a piece of your time tonight. Y'all were really engaging. I appreciate that. That helps the live to go by a lot smoother. Again, I can't wait till we do this again. Next time, I make sure that you all know ahead of time. I try to send out something a week ahead of time so you can prepare and give you some reminders. But the replay will definitely be available on my personal page and on my YouTube channel. And you can find me everywhere at Whip It Like Butter. I also do have ebooks. They're in my Beacon store. So if you're interested, you can grab your ebook as well. All right. Well, I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a good night.